miles, then turn right. In 0.1 miles, turn right. Turn right.
I just need left the
If you go all the way down to him, he'll let you in to drop off up front.
Okay, thank you.
Você pode deixar aqui e depois já caminha de ficar caminhando.
Vai lá, tira dela, pai.
O palhaço mandou um recado.
Quem mandou o recado? O que você falou aí de recado?
É um apito aqui de recado.
Celular do senhor?
É. Mensagem. Isso. É, da outra vez teve isso também. Realmente, essa etiqueta rosa.
É bem que já acabou tudo, porque a mulher falou que só disponível esse tempo.
Então provavelmente a gente não vai poder andar em alguns setores aí.
O que é aquilo ali? Não é que os horários, né?
Ali é a exploração. Vamos lá ver esse negócio da exploração que eles fizeram.
Tipo, é coma com astronauta, foi escrito aí.
Vamos lá, sobe, vai subir. Arruma 2 lugares lá. Achou lá. Não, a gente vai descer em alguns lugares, visitar os lugares onde os astronautas chegam, a gente vai ver a pista de chegada deles, vai ver o prédio onde eles chegam.
Men det är ju såna här pappa. Såna.
Se lo sente adesso, fai play.
Может приземляться в Базилию, в Калифорнии, рядом с тем местом, где это 2 часа. Мы проезжали мимо того места, когда в Калифорнии. Мы туда не заходили, мы проезжали мимо. Когда он в Калифорнию приезжает, его грузит на вот такой вот самолет, и он на этом самолете сюда прилетает. Вот здесь вот такая же штука, чтобы его снять.
If it has to land in California, they have to fly it back on a 747, a big plane. So, if it lands in California, they have to put it on the back of the plane and fly it for a couple $1 million back here. And when they did some of the initial flights with it, they took it on piggyback and like it would take off from there.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin sequence story.
The launch pads of Complex 39 are where the journey to space begins. This is where months of preparation come down to a final few hours, the launch countdown. The count starts formally about 2.5 days before the moment of liftoff. While countdown activities are controlled from the firing room in the Launch Control Center, workers at the pad complete their final tasks to prepare the shuttle for its journey. The launch pad structures, designed and built by Kennedy Space Center engineers, provide workers access to the shuttle while protecting it from contamination and damaging weather. A tall stationary tower called the fixed service structure has 3 movable service arms, an access arm for crew, and 2 vent arms which route propellant gases away from the vehicle. Atop the fixed service structure is the lightning mast, which protects the tower and the shuttle from lightning strikes. The rotating service structure provides protected access to all the shuttle's critical points. It also has a clean room, which allows installation and work on the payload inside. An inflatable seal closes the gap between the shuttle and the structure, allowing the payload bay doors to be open without risk of exposing the payload to dust and dirt contamination. Approximately 12 hours before launch, the rotating service structure is pulled away, revealing the shuttle as the countdown reaches its final phase. 6 hours before liftoff, all but a handful of workers leave the pad, as extremely cold liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen are loaded into the external tank through an intricate system of pipes and valves. As the interior propellant tanks fill, some of the propellant turns to gas and must be released safely. A vent hood called the beanie cap collects the oxygen vapors, routing them away from the tip of the tank to prevent the buildup of ice. Potentially explosive hydrogen gas is also routed away from the tower to a flare stack where it can safely burn off. 3 hours before launch, the astronauts enter the orbiter, assisted by the closeout crew. If an emergency arises, the astronauts and closeout crew can escape to safety by way of baskets which descend down slide wires. 9 minutes before liftoff, the countdown is held for a final assessment of launch readiness. The launch director polls the team, and a final go for launch is issued. The countdown resumes. Computers now control the final sequence of pre-launch checks and procedures. In the final minutes, the crew access arm and beanie cap swing away. The shuttle generates acoustic energy, which is capable of damaging the orbiter. So Kennedy Space Center's engineers devised a sound suppression system, which uses water for noise control. Just before ignition, 300,000 gallons of water are injected into the engine exhaust to muffle the sound and protect the area from rocket flames. Sparklers ignite under the main engines to ensure that no hydrogen vapors are present. Main engines fire. 6 seconds left until liftoff. Still attached to the platform by 8 bolts with explosive nuts, the shuttle bends forward and then back. Umbilical systems and the hold-down bolts must remain attached until the final moment, just in case there is an engine cutoff, which aborts the launch. Simultaneously, the solid rocket boosters are ignited, the 8 explosive nuts detonate, and the umbilical connections release. The space shuttle lifts away from Complex 39 on another mission to explore and develop the frontier of space.
Um hotel mais alto, né? Qual o andar que é?
Sei lá, onde chegar a gente aprende.
Não era melhor a gente subir de escada, não? Não gosta de nada de esforçar, né, também?
Vai porque eu pra caramba. E aquele pessoal? Como continua? Só que a gente tem que esperar. Será ver? Só descer. A gente desce de escada, beleza?
Isso é o quê? Também?
Ali é outro lançador. É. São vários lançadores. Base de lançamento que chama.
Então, ó, o lá é ali naquele prédio, aquele passeio de frente.
Então ali é onde fabrica aquele prédio grande, tá vendo?
Tem essa aqui, essa estrada e vai até lá.
Eu acho que o ônibus ainda vai lá ainda também, tá vendo? Isso aí é funcionário, velho. Só pessoas que trabalham aqui dentro.
A mãe já ia reclamar.
Eu ia perguntar, mas eu já tava achando que tem gente que vem até aqui.
É secretário, então?
Vento. até o cabelo. Olha pra cá. Olha o cabelo aí, como é que tá? Olha a velocidade do vento.
Nossa, mano, e cabelo bem.
Tá que tá, hein? Segura pra não voar, hein?
Saiu uma descer.
O vento aqui tá mais de 80 por hora.
Pai, aqui tem mais chinês e japonês que nada.
Tem muita gente da China, Índia, muita. Isso tem um sinal que a economia deles lá está boa.
Brasileiro até agora nenhum.
O brasileiro aqui realmente está muito pouco brasileiro aqui.
É verdade, os pacotes não tem.
Deixa eu filmar aqui o motor da nave espacial.
Cabelo tá um balão de gato.
Pois é. É o cabelo de 250 milhões de dólares, né?
Não, é o vento
Pois
balançando tudo. Nossa, meu cabelo tá um balão de gato. Liguei no banheiro.
Ó, o banheiro é logo aí perto, não reclama, vamos lá, porque aqui é uma coisa que não tá tendo problema com banheiro, né?
Só na Disney a gente teve.
É, só lá na Disney que tem problema de banheiro, né? Quer que eu vou filmar vocês no banheiro ou não? Quer que eu filme vocês no banheiro? Não? Bom, não quer que eu vou lá dentro filmar, né? Ver se tá tudo bem. Empurra que abre, empurra. Isso!
We seem to have more than enough buses at the moment, which is good. Later on it gets really crowded, so they're going to let us go with a partial bus. On the way to stop number 2, which is the Saturn V Apollo Center, we will, of course, get to look at this crawler transporter up close one more time. Don't usually get to see it this close. And we will have a video that describes how they retrieved a solid rocket booster shortly after launch. Then that will put us down in the area where the buildings are, and I'll describe some of the buildings, some of the things you're seeing. Depending on what your last driver told you, some of it may be redundant, but we'll make sure we get it all in that way. Now the crawler across the road here that you got a view of coming out, I'd just like to mention that they were used during Apollo. They were developed for Apollo.
And then they are, of course, being used for the shuttle, and they will be used again in Return to Moon mission. They move down the crawler way at a phenomenal 1/2 mile per hour. And they get an incredible 42 feet to the gallon of diesel fuel. That's about 125 gallons per mile. But they only have to go 3.5, 4 miles each way. Built by hand back in 1981. Primary purpose of recovering the solid rock system. I'm fortunate enough to work here for 23 years. And I like to think I had one of the coolest jobs on the space center showing being an astronaut. Trips leave port about 24 hours in advance of the launch. Boost discovery, roll program. And you see the separation of the boosters, which is about 2 minutes into flight. It's a separation, they stop in long, tumble down. And it seems like those parachutes are never going to open. They stop at 2 miles above the ocean surface. And the shoes are completely deployed. We may have a recovery by the time the boost gets to the water. And that's when we spring into action.
Impact. We're proceeding inbound at this time. I watched it lots of extensions decoy. Let's go in.
We see this 30-foot tower bobbing in the ocean. About 30 foot of them is above the water, about 100 foot is below the water. Once we've done our assessment, we'll launch a boat, one of our handbar boats, with retrieval team on board. They'll disconnect the parachutes. Those chutes, each of them are recovered on the reels, on parachute reels that we have on our aft deck. We'll recover that thruster with the deck crane. We'll separate the parachute, secure it on deck, and then we're ready to start our dive operation. That dive team is going to be contending with a booster that could be surging up and down the water as much as 12, 13 feet. Timing is critical, and it's a pretty hazardous job. It's one of the most dangerous of anybody out here in the Space Center, with the exception, of course, of the astronauts. Now, if you look out to the left of the bus, you'll see an American flag, and at the base of the flagpole, there is a blue rectangular object. That is the countdown clock you see on TV. And this odd-looking object out here in the water next to us, to the left, is the barge that brought in the latest orange external tank from where they are manufactured in Louisiana. And out the front right of the bus, this low building is the Launch Control Center. On day of launch in the firing room, there will be about 200 technicians and engineers who have control of the shuttle until it clears the launch pad tower, at which time control transfers to Houston. Now the VAB, the really large building on the right, the Vehicle Assembly Building, is the third or fourth largest building in the world by volume. It is over 120 million cubic feet, covering approximately 8 acres of ground. The large American flag you see painted on the side is 209 feet tall by 110 feet across. Each stripe is 8 feet across. Each star is 6 feet across. And when it was originally painted up there, along with a bicentennial emblem that used to be up there, it took over 6,000 gallons of paint. Now we're going to have a video narrated by Eileen Collins, who was the first female commander of a shuttle mission. And she has flown on 3 missions. This was when she was visiting the Orbiter Processing Facility, which are the tan buildings just beyond the tank, the water tank over on your right. And I don't think I introduced myself, by the way. I am Bud, your escort.
Here. The first thing that I see is the people. And that's the first thing that I focus on. And it's a great opportunity for astronauts to come down here and meet the people that actually work on the orbiter and to get us ready to fly and to get us flying safe. There's one thing that they all have in common, and that's their love of the space program and their dedication to getting the shuttles flying, getting them flying safely, and continuing on with this great mission that we have of exploring space.
The orbiter will spend the next 90 days right here in the orbiter processing facility, where we'll spend approximately 300,000 work hours deservicing it from one mission, reconfiguring that orbiter for the next mission, and then preparing it to roll over to the vehicle assembly building for the next one. You got to follow procedure. That's the main thing. Safety is the most important issue when it comes to working with a orbiter. Every procedure you work, you want to take it at a speed the first time. You don't want to get too confident. You want to make mistakes. You don't want to make a mistake working on that. It's very important part, yes, sir.
The shuttle is really the building block for further exploration. We'll use the shuttle to go to the space station. Eventually we're going to go back to the moon. We're going to go on to Mars. And what we've learned from the shuttle and the space station program are what's going to make those future missions safer and more successful.
And now directly to our right is the orbiter processing facility. The building closest to us is where Endeavour is currently located. And the building coming up just a little off to the distance there on the right is where Discovery is currently located. Other things that go on in this area is where they manufacture the heat tiles you hear so much about. Also where they prep the solid rocket. I'll get that right. The solid rockets that go on the side of the orange external tanks. That is taken care of over in those tan buildings out to the right. And if you look back now behind this building, you'll see the other crawler transporter. This is usually about as close as we get to them. But against the building, you kind of get a perspective of size. Now coming up is an area we call the alligator pit. It'll be just to the right at this bridge coming up ahead of us. Although for the last 3 days, I have not seen an alligator in there. But there have occasionally been manatees. So maybe we'll be lucky and see one or the other. I don't see any manatees. Oh yeah, there's a manatee right up closer. It's that kind of a lumpy thing right below the surface. There's a couple of them.
Tem jacaré aqui, ó. Um pato na água.
On the way back, if you watch along the right-hand side of the bus, over the area we just drove the last half mile, oftentimes there are little alligators in the pond or in the canal there. Now out the sort of front left of the bus, out in the distance, you see a white Quonset hut-shaped building and an unusual looking structure. Those are at the south end of the landing complex. The runway is 15,000 feet long, almost 3 miles. It is the longest paved runway in the world, and it runs roughly parallel to the direction we are going now, but we can't see it because of the vegetation. That unusual looking structure, though, is what is referred to as the mate-demate facility. You may have seen on TV the shuttle being flown cross-country on the back of a 747 after it has landed at Edwards Air Force Base in California. When the 747 arrives at this location, it pulls up to that structure where there is equipment to lift the shuttle off of the back of the 747.
Looking down on us, watching us? If they could make a satellite pass over our cities, could they do the same with a bomb? Our own space program kicked into high gear, and less than 2 months later, we were ready to launch our own satellite. the space race, and we were running a distant second. In 1961, we fell even further behind. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man into space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. But our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space hero. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young...
As camisas, IBM, tá vendo?
Vai mais pra lá, você tem que ir até o fim. Toda a emoção de chegar lá, mas é você na tela, né?
Na tela, então. Tá vendo como eram antigos os computadores? Eu não vi nenhuma camisa do Brasil aí.
São as empresas patrocinadas.
É, empresa brasileira, né?
A IBM.
A IBM é brasileira?
Não, a IBM não, mas só tem coisa da IBM ali.
Não, mas tem outras empresas aí.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Firing Room Theater. My name is Kevin. If you need to exit at any time during the show, exit to the doors on the right. We do ask that during the presentation that there absolutely be no smoking or flash photography. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the firing room. Launch control for the Apollo missions. This is not a mock-up. These are the very consoles we sat at when men first took off to fly to the moon. The tragedy of Apollo 1 had put us 1.5 years behind. We were making up for it in one big leap, and we were doing it with a rocket that no man had ever flown before. It was a few days before Christmas, 1968, when Apollo 8 sat on the pad. She was the first of a new kind, a moon rocket. This was the Phoenix, risen from the ashes of Apollo 1. The first Apollo crew did not die in vain. This was to be their testament. "36 stories high, she had been fully fueled throughout the night. The liquid oxygen in her tanks caused ice to form on the outside of the craft. The extreme temperature differences between the air and the sub-zero fuel caused the metal skin of the rocket to expand and contract. Everyone who was on the pad agreed. It was as though the rocket was alive, breathing, straining at the leash. Earlier in the morning, astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders had made their final preparations before taking that long ride out to the waiting spacecraft. The minimum safe distance from Saturn V and liftoff was 3 miles. The reason was simple. When fully fueled, the rocket contained the explosive power of an atomic bomb. As the clock counted down, the astronauts and all of us in launch control went through the pre-flight checks, our hands on the controls of the most powerful, most complex machine ever built. It had over 2 million separate systems, and to bring these men back alive, everything had to work perfectly. Each individual system had been tested, but what what we didn't know was how they would perform when all 2 million began to work together. That moment would come when the countdown clock reached 0. If a maneuvering thruster failed, if communications broke down, if navigation was off by 1 degree, if any piece of the miles of wiring, circuits, relays, or valves was defective, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders would pay with their lives. As they sat, waiting for launch on that chill December morning, these 3 astronauts were back to what they had always been, test pilots. You are now in the final minutes before the launch of Apollo 8, right here where it actually happened. Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another. It is one of those rare moments when history is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
Attention all personnel, the countdown clock will start on my mark at T-minus 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1, clock.
This is launch control, T-minus 3 minutes, and communications checks with the Memória astronauts in Catarina and communications on go.
That's clean off to my mark.
During this period, once we do get to firing movement, the various tanks during the 3 stages of 75 must be accompanied to pressurized.
Apollo 8 successfully orbited the moon, and the astronauts returned safely to the Earth. I know. I'm Jim Lovell, and I was one of the crew of this spacecraft, Apollo 8. We were the first men to see the surface of the moon from just a few miles away. But it was the hundreds of thousands of men and women who worked in that team, and the millions of people who supported the mission that really made it possible. That way, I guess, we all went to the moon. Now, on the other side of those doors, you'll find an actual Saturn V moon rocket. It's still the most powerful, the most complex machine ever built. And I guess it's the only one that can take you to another planet. I actually got to fly one on a second flight to the moon called Apollo 13. But that's another story.
Daqui do lado. Não, mas eu
Okay, what brand?
Ah, essa foi a última lojinha, depois a gente foi embora.
Essa é o quê?
A gente veio aqui, depois a gente foi embora. Daqui a gente foi embora. Existe. É, acho que daqui a gente foi embora.
Aqui comprou os negócios.
A gente foi embora.
Mas nós almoçamos aqui, né?
Foi.
Tinha restaurante, agora não tem mais.
Não, a gente não achou ainda. Acho que nada mais. vindo pra Lua, entendeu? A nave é essa.
E agora tá vendo a própria nave que foi na Lua e voltou, né? Quem diria? Agora que diga pra mim aqui, quem diria que a família Pires ia contar essa história? Como? Explica.
Desceram da nave um tapetão assim,
Então,
pisado de novo.
quem diria? Você tá aqui agora vendo uma nave que foi na Lua enquanto você era criança, né?
Pela primeira vez. Nossa, essa foto é legal. Ó, a foto que eu falei era essa, ó. Ah, não, mas é montagem, não é de verdade.
É uma montagem, Jennifer. Deixa eu continuar filmando a nave aqui.
Vai, direito não vai sair da foto, hein?
Esse é o carrinho que levou eles lá pra...
Tira uma foto do seu pai.
Astronauta van.
Vem, fica lá pra você tirar. Não, tem que ser pro lado.
Vamos ver o que é que tem.
Deixa eu tirar foto. Ô, Tami, tira a foto dele aí.
Ah, é uma micro pedra.
Vai lá, pera aí. Deixa eu pegar na pedra lá, vai.
Vai pegar na lua?
Mas é pra mim. Fica daqui de trás.
Deixa eu ver. Deixa eu e a mãe.
Oh. Tá vendo, velho? Tá vendo? A família Pires tocou na lua também, além de ver tudo isso. Que coisa! Você pôs a mão num objeto lunar.
Fica filmando ou falando? Essa nave aqui, sempre tá numa nave igual.
Não, mas aí não entra.
Foi uma parte diferente aí depois, né?
Foi.
Stephanie, como coloca aí?
Pode.
Espera, eu quero filme. Olha lá o carrinho que eles andaram na rua.
Using small robotic vehicles, some of those being demonstrated here. These rovers will travel the march of terrain, gather samples, and conduct a variety of scientific investigations. The rover missions to Mars and Brumado prevention of the exploration of that planet. We can identify the Mars rover and the Williams near the Mars landscape. We ask that you please limit your family time. We have a lot of rovers to look each other. The scientists will
Eu e a mãe. Pai, vai lá ficar junto. Qual que ela quer? Ela Fica preparado, né? Zé, meu próximo. Peraí, mãe, peraí. Pode sair. Peraí, mãe. Mãe. Mãe, você vai ficar aí, você vai conseguir tirar foto. Você vai conseguir te apertar. Isso, fica aí. Aí, agora peraí. Tami, olha aqui agora. Dos dois eu já tirei. Pronto. Pronto. Pode. Continua filmando, continua. Tem que apertar lá de novo pra parar de filmar. Como é que é, mãe? Aperta. Isso, tá filmando. Mãe, não precisa fazer essa pose toda, não.
Ah, não, seu pai olhando.
Não tem nada pra olhar, é filme.
That other store over there. And they cute this juvenile. Yeah, but
É, a comida dos astronautas, a comida deles. É isso aí que eles comem na nave, tá vendo? É isso aí. É vitaminas.
Tem a minha câmera, tem?
We're going upstairs.
Banho, não é? Você vê esses aí, tá?
Isso aqui é o lugar que eu tomo banho.
Aqui é o banheiro deles.
É,
não.
aqui é que eu tomo banho.
Aqui é o quarto deles, né? Aqui é o quarto deles. Eles dormem num saco.
Chega, que vai não tirar.
Scraper.
Vai. This is a bit more interesting.
Proteins are essential components of all living cells and serve many different functions. By studying the protein as part of a virus, researchers can learn how that virus attacks plants and animals. What happens here on Earth is that gravity actually distorts the shape of the crystal and causes imperfections in it. In space, we grow crystals larger and in a more pure form, bring them back, and allow the crystal of ours to go much The whole goal is to eventually synthesize the proteins. We can make a whole new family of pharmaceuticals that can be used in the treatment of cancer, for example, but without the negative side effects.
Mas às vezes eu vejo só vai embora. Ah, tem lá em cima.
Tem lá em cima ainda.
Os caras.
Tem outro módulo lá em cima. Aqui é satélite, que eles mandam pro espaço. São satélites para tirar fotografia, um monte de coisa que eles fazem.
Ô, bem, deixa eu vir tirar uma foto nossa aqui, ó. Aqui, ó. Aqui, ó. Encosta aqui, bicho.
manipulator, the hand is a natural extension. Perform maintenance services for
Let's go, come guys. Take the bridge.
Não tinha de lá pra fora.
Vai, do lado nacional. Tudo bem.
Aqui é onde eles trabalham, tá vendo? Olha como é bonito. Eles trabalham aqui, ó. Bem desenvolvido o negócio, né?
Sem flash.
Ah, com flash com... Boa? Não vai ficar escuro não, sem flash?
Sei lá, ficou boa.
Tem gente trabalhando aí?
Não. Eu cansei que eles trabalham.
É aqui que eles fazem o serviço.
Olha os dois aqui.
Toda a tecnologia é desenvolvida nessa oficina aqui.
O cabelo tá tudo bagunçado.
Sério mesmo? Thank you.
A gente fez assim, né?
Simulação é ali, né?
É isso aí. Não tô vendo nada alto.
Ó, tira uma aí, vai. Jennifer, tira uma.
Peraí, tira outra. Peraí.
Visst var det tanken vi gick igenom?
Excuse me.
E o outro andar da nave ainda.
Mas é a mesma coisa aí, eu acho.
Você viu esses carros? Por que que ele é grande? Porque leva os carros pra andar lá na lua, tá vendo?
Those two rockets are Upore. Eu não levo a mulher, não.
Não, a única mulher que foi a professorinha, a nave explodiu. É.
If you would like to tour the Kennedy Space Center and see the areas where space shuttles are processed and launched, you can do so aboard one of our guided air-conditioned tour buses.
See what it's like where they, this is where they highlight it.
Essa aqui é a parte de controle da nave, ó.
Olha pra cá,
Commander on that side, and your pilot on this side, then you have two more seats. There's a launch setup right here. So those seats will This is the flight deck.
Vamos lá ver lá o memorial lá, gente. Olha lá os nomes lá. Prestigiar os caras. Os caras é o máximo. A pessoa para subir numa nave dessa, subir uma arrancada daquela. Que Max Ponte? Max Ponte? Max Ponte é astronauta brasileiro, minha filha. Tira uma minha aí também, Jennifer.
Dá quanto tempo dura o filme? Eu não sei, aqui tá falando aproximadamente 45
Não,
minutos.
acho melhor não. Melhor não, o cara...
When they sleep, in a couple hours, it'll be the best night's sleep of anybody in the universe. Yes, sir, little one with blue shirt. Okay, the gentleman's asking, why did we only land 2 astronauts on the moon, not using the space shuttle, but using Apollo? And so that was designed so that there was 1 astronaut who remained aboard the capsule who orbited the moon, while the other 2 astronauts, like Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, landed on the moon. So we kept 1 guy, so that lunar module was only designed to support 2 people on the moon with the oxygen and water they needed. Yes, sir. How about you again, though?
Faz uma pergunta pra ele, Jennifer.
Eu não, tô
Go ahead.
Por quê? Você não sabe fazer uma pergunta em inglês, não?
Eu não sei o que a pessoa já perguntou.
Why not? But now that brings a good point. Can you see stars in space? When you go out and look at that night sky tonight, you see all those thousands and thousands of stars. When you're up in space, they can see a lot more.
Verdade é que os Estados Unidos
Because they don't have all that light pollution.
É por causa da
So
polêmica.
somebody
Vai, people! Dá tchau e o astronauta ali em cima.
Já, até daqui a 5 anos eu volto cá, tá? Depois de 5 anos não dá. 5 anos.
E ó, o astronauta.
Tira foto.
Mãe. Tô filmando. Esperar acabar? Filma eu.
Meu Deus, você nem desligou, né? Esse carrinho é pra levar o pessoal pro estacionamento, pros ônibus lá.
Tem outra bateria ou já acabou tudo?
Acabou tudo.
Putz!
Então economiza um pouquinho,
o
né?
tempo todo?
Só Deus sabe o que a gente vai fazer de noite, então.
Quantas horas tem esse filme?
Na Disney não acabou?